They have done that in order to buy themselves time. What then is the actual next step that advances this conversation?
I don't think the Justice Department has thought that far ahead. I mean, they have two sort of lines of inquiry. One is the grand jury stuff, and then the other is Ghislaine Maxwell, which is a total waste of time. And nobody should be talking to this awful human being and pretending like she's some credible source of information. So I don't anticipate anything useful coming out of that, too, or particularly instructive, or anything that we should rely upon. And then you have the House coming back, and there's going to be a renewed push to presumably release some of that material. So I don't see them having much of an exit strategy except to sort of wait this out, which may actually work.
Go on recess again.
Yeah. But no, they don't have a clear plan here to solve anyone's problems. And I think the victims definitely deserve to have more of a voice in this story. I feel terrible that they've been put through this, and I'm glad to see people trying to center them.
Well, I think to that point, and it's a critical point, I've kind of concluded that all of this Epstein noise hit a turning point last week when the Giuffre family started to speak out and sat down and gave that very compelling and heart-wrenching interview. You have Representative Presley in a letter requesting the House Oversight hearing on survivors, noting for too long powerful abusers and their enablers have been shielded by institutions more interested in protecting predators than centering survivors. The committee now has an opportunity to break that cycle, and I think what pushes the committee to break that cycle are the voices of the women who are finally coming out, Michelle, and giving context to this, putting a face, a voice, even if there's no face there, the sound of a victim expressing their heart-wrenching concern about what this government is trying to do or planning to do in pushing them through more pain. What do you make of that turning point as I see it, with these families now framing up this conversation in a way that at the end of the day, I think is far worse for Trump than they may realize?
Well, I just think it underlines how depraved the administration has been in its handling of this case, right? I mean, first they buy into, or they kind of feed the base's expectation that they are going to unmask some vast liberal conspiracy, even though there were few people who were better friends with Epstein than Donald Trump. Right. Then when they refuse to release these documents, they use the victims as the excuse, right? They say we don't want to re-victimize these women. And then finally, they make this inexplicable apparent sweetheart deal with Ghislaine Maxwell, moving her to this minimum security prison that sex offenders are not supposed to be eligible to be housed in the first place, so that we don't know exactly why, but it seems like so that she can somehow exonerate Donald Trump, as if that would be credible to anyone but the most fanatical true believers. And then they subpoena all these people to testify. What is the possible justification for saying we're going to try to make Hillary Clinton testify in this case, but we don't want to hear from the actual victims of Jeffrey Epstein who are ready and willing to come forward?
Nor from the prosecutor who put together the sweetheart deal.
No, I mean, and we can look at, can we just go back and look at this timeline of events, of how this just, since July 6th, when Axios got that memo, which actually only made the public way more curious because the DOJ identified over 1,000 victims, which everyone still wants to hear from. Then the Trump DOJ request unsealing, July 18th, July 25th, Deputy AG Blanche meets with Ghislaine Maxwell, and by August 1st, she's at Club Fed, the minimum security prison. And now, August 8th, Trump's DOJ requests to unseal the grand jury exhibits from Epstein Maxwell. They have made this an ongoing disaster for themselves. This is totally of their own making, and they're treating it like a political problem. Do you think that it actually has transitioned, Alicia, to becoming a human problem and superseding politics?
I think, Michael, that is what Ayanna Pressley and others have succeeded in doing, which is returning the conversation to where it should have been the entire time, which is a conversation about justice, a conversation about systems, a conversation about accountability. So in this swirl of what has indeed become a political conversation, it almost seems as though there is an opportunity to have a legitimate and robust conversation about what justice could look like.
Well, you would think, Alicia. You would think. But here's the thing. All of this with the women coming forward and really, as I said, framing this and given what Michelle just said, Ankush, is this, does it have a chilling effect on what DOJ does next in releasing the documents? Or does it give them a little bit more spine due to the pressure that's going to be out there, where the more people hear from the victims, the more they want the departments to release the documents?
You know, that's a fascinating question. I think I'm not sure I know the answer to it, because I don't think that the DOJ is even thinking about it. I honestly think the victims have been almost entirely out of their field of vision, and I think it has shown from the way they have conducted themselves and exactly what Michelle was talking about as well. So I think the idea of integrating that into their thought process, that'll be a new one for them. But my guess is, just from the way they've conducted themselves throughout this, has just been like hemming and hawing and these excuses and non sequiturs, that they want to try to shut this down as quickly as possible and hope it gets out of the news cycle eventually. So I would be surprised if Trump and congressional Republicans open the door to a hearing with a bunch of these victims. It could very well be a good thing, particularly if they want to participate and they want to speak, given how much they've been put through the ringer in the last few weeks. But I don't see any particular reason that DOJ would want that to happen, either strategically or just on the merits. They just haven't cared about them.
So, to your point about getting this out of the way, that's something that House Speaker Mike Johnson thought he was going to be able to do by sending everybody home. And here we are, still talking about it. I wonder why.